it's nobody's truly understands that problem, right? Having all that stuff going on and like literally running out of money.
Yeah.
And you gotta like think and be like, shit, like what, like how do you get the money, right? Like you take a loan from somebody, pay them 10%, and like be like, yo, I'll pay it back in 6 months, or sell something off at a discount just to get some cash in. And that's why I tell people.
Super excited today.
Yeah.
Revamp podcast. Have Mike Ballato with us. Mike is a fix and flip guy. I think it's fair to categorize you as that. Like you just told me, did about 80 fix and flip projects.
Yeah.
That's dope,
Kept
man.
me busy. Yeah. So it's, I guess I'll just kind of tell you like where I started.
Please.
I guess. Yeah. It started a while ago. I would say I bought my first house in college. Went to Penn State, and I was living in an apartment with a bunch of my high school friends, and it was great for like the first semester. It was just constant parties, and like the whole complex was just college kids. And probably about halfway through that semester, I was like, crap, like I can't just do this all the time. Like there's actually like school to do, right? So I found a house that was right next to campus that was for sale by owner, and I was like, that's perfect. Like I want to buy that house. But I was like a broke college kid, right? So I got my parents on board. We bought the house. I rented out. So the next year I moved in and I rented out the other rooms to my friends that I wanted to live with.
Nice.
So I essentially lived for free all during college. And then the next year, the house 2 doors down went up for sale. We bought that one. My sister came to Penn State. She lived there, rented out to her friends. And so I just stayed there all 4 years and lived in my own house.
That's incredible.
And so after I graduated, I kept them for probably about another 4 or 5 years, dealing with college kids back and forth and stuff like that. And then it just got to the point where I was focusing more down here.
Okay.
I just sold them off and sold it to another investor up there.
Okay. How old are you now?
37.
37. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, and then from then, after college, I got into property management. I was managing apartment complexes all around Chester County, parts of Philly, while I was starting to flip houses. So I bought my first flip house in 2012.
Okay.
And that was in Westchester Borough. I bought it from a wholesaler. My dad and I did like 95% of the work because we didn't have contractors at the time and all this stuff. So we did it nights and weekends after working full-time jobs. And, it took us probably 6 months.
And your full-time job at that point was being a property manager? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, so then we sold it, made money at it, and I was like, holy crap, this actually works. And so ever since then, like, that's all I wanted to do was flip houses.
Wow.
So, like, I was the kid in college, like, watching HGTV, like, all the flipping shows and stuff, and I was like, that's what I want to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Huh.
So.
Okay. So let's go back to buying your first rental and everything. How did you come up with that idea in the first? Like, did you have any friends or family or anybody influencing that was already a real estate person, or you just saw the opportunity?
Nobody really was in real estate. Like, I've always just liked houses in general. Like, I don't know what it was. Like, looking at different houses. Like, not that I was like practicing real estate at the time, but like it just. It like triggered something with me. It was like, I like houses. So I originally went to school to be architectural engineering.
Okay.
Found out that was way too hard. So I just switched to business.
Okay.
So, but like
the parties were much more important,
Right? So I switched to business. Like I couldn't do CAD drawings and stuff like that. To me, it was like way over my head. But just like the idea of like the renovations and like seeing something go from like a crap hole to something nice. Like I think watching those shows, granted it was only a 30-minute segment and like I wish I could flip houses in 30 minutes.
Man, that'd be awesome.
But I think that's the biggest thing now is like people think that that's what it
unrealistic
takes, right?
expectations.
They don't see all the crap that you do behind the scenes.
Yep.
But so from there it was like I knew like that's what I wanted to do. I didn't know like to what facet I was going to get into with it in, but I wanted to do the flipping thing because I saw it on the TV. I wanted to do it. I was like, if people really can make that kind of money just flipping houses, right? It's not like you're not trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yep.
You're basically just fixing something and selling it. So it just kind of grew.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I love it. So you said that the first flip that you did in Westchester Borough, you and your dad did a bunch of the renovations. Was your dad like in the trades or?
Not like in the trades, but like he knew how to do a lot of things. So it's funny that I got into this because like when I was younger, I didn't know shit about tools. Like, absolute nothing. Like my brother was putting an air intake on my Subaru at the time, and he was like, "Hey, I need a Phillips head screwdriver," and I was like, "Which one's that?" and like he laughed at me. He's like, "Are you kidding me?" I was like, "No, I don't know what it is." So like going from that to like telling people what I do now, they're like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, it's not like I didn't know what it was. Like I just chose not to know what it was, right?"
You weren't interested or engaged for it. You didn't have a reason.
Now that I'm in it, I'm like, all right, like what's this? What's that? And I feel like I've come a long way.
Absolutely, brother. And not for nothing, getting to 80 flips, and you do high-end flips, by the way, right? Like what's the average price point, like purchase price, rehab, and out sale for the stuff you do?
So I would say my normal is like 300,000 purchase.
Okay.
My rehabs are extensive. I usually always go over my budget.
Story of my life, brother.
So I'm like 150 is like a normal budget for me.
Okay.
Because like I've just felt like because of where I'm at in like Chester County, people expect certain things.
Sure.
Right. So like I can't go in and like not do a roof on a house. Right. Like if they're like, hey, it's a flip house, like they expect a roof, windows, siding, like everything, right? So like I've just come to custom to like kind of overdoing things. So for a long time, like that's what kind of made me stay focused in Chester County because like I know that I can get it back.
Sure.
Whereas in other places,
you know what to expect, yeah.
Like I don't know, like I've never flipped a house in Philly.
Yep.
Like first off, I don't know Philly. If you drop me in the middle of Philly, I couldn't even tell you where I am.
Yep.
Right. So, but like I know Chester County. So about 300,000 purchase. I've done houses where I've bought a house for $600,000 and dumped way more than I thought it was going to be. That was my deal in 23, or started in 23, started in 22, sold it in 23. That was the one that I was telling you about. So that was a big...
well, let's talk about that one. Let's talk about it. So what happened?
So it was a rancher house I bought in Tredyffrin Township. The whole idea was pop the top off, put a second floor on, sell it for 1.5 all day, right? I was like, cool. I've done second floor additions before, like no sweat. I was like, yeah, I kind of know what it is. So we got started, and my guys, as they were going, it was a brick house, and all the windows and stuff were going to move. We were going to rearrange things. We were going to go to 9-foot ceilings. Like it was going to be a high-end place.
Yep.
First flip I was going to do, I was going to sell for over 1.5. So we started framing and doing like the new 2x6 walls and everything, and like all the bricks on the outside started to fall over. Right, because like we're taking the windows out, we're cutting new openings in the bricks, like it's a facade.
Gotcha. Yep.
So they were like, you know what? Let's just push it over. It's better if we just
down.
reframe all of the outside walls.
Yep.
And most normal people would agree that that's the best thing to do. In certain townships, when you knock all the walls down, they consider it new construction. So I get a letter and an email from the township, and they're like, they took a picture of my house with no walls. And they were like, you need to submit stormwater, you need all this stuff and everything. And it turned into a huge fiasco. It took 6 months to get my stormwater approved. It took another $90,000 to do the stormwater that that I was not planning on doing in the
90.
first case. So it just pushed my timeline out. I went way over budget. It turned into my loan that I had with the bank for construction, like I went through that in the first 4 months.
Wow.
And then after that, I just like, I mean, as you know, like
Out of
if you go
pocket.
over budget, it's out of your pocket.
That's it.
So from that time until I finished, I was literally just writing checks and swiping the credit card just to finish the house.
Yeah.
So, but
Brutal.
And then I sold it, and I mean, it turned out great. Like super happy with how it turned out. But like, because of the stormwater, we had to change how we were going to do the garage. I couldn't make it the 3 car that I wanted. I had to do a 2, and
Got it.
it was just certain things that I had to do that if I didn't have to do stormwater, it would have been no problem.
That's huge, man.
Yeah.
What was your original projected budget on it going into it before all that happened?
I was going to spend about $500,000.
Okay. And you bought for what?
600.
Okay. Okay.
So-
and where do you think you ended up on rehab?
$1 million.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So $1 million.
So that wasn't just the $90,000 stormwater,
No,
brother. Like
it
you went
was-
over on
oh,
a
yeah.
lot of things.
Because then it's like, well, while you're doing
It's
this,
a domino
you
effect.
might as well.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
might as well.
Yep.
You might as well.
Perfect example. Here,
And
just talk to you about it.
That's like, it just snowballed, right? And it was a really high end house. Like
Right.
Like everything on that street sells for 1.7 to 2.2.
So
I'm
you
like-
did have an upper target where you're like, well, there could still be potential to still.
And then the other issue was like it was right when rates started to go super skyrocket, right? So this was last Christmas.
Okay.
So I was, as soon as they approved my stormwater and I could do my garage, I pre-listed the house. So I continued on the whole inside of the house was completely done. It was painted, hardwood floors were in, kitchen was done, bathrooms, everything. I just didn't have a garage, or
Okay.
my outside was still a mud bath. So once I got my permits to do the stormwater and the addition for the garage, then I put it up on the MLS and I started pre-listing it as a
Pre-marketing.
new construction.
Got it.
But it was interesting because people could walk through the house. It wasn't done, but the house
The
technically
house was
done.
kind of done. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we did a bunch of open houses and brokers and stuff like that. And then we went under contract right after New Year's of last year. And then the buyers got to change some stuff. They wanted, hardwood floors upstairs instead of carpet. So we
Okay.
changed that out for them. They got to pick certain finishes in the garage and the mud room and the cubbies and that type of stuff. So it was kind of a cool situation where it was my first kind of new construction, working
Yeah,
with
and
buyers
kind of
type
a pre-sale
of stuff.
type of thing as well, where you're customizing.
Right.
You don't normally do that, right?
Right.
Where you're customizing.
Yeah, it's usually it's done and I list it and people just take it.
Got it.
So it was kind of cool, but at the same time very stressful.
Yeah. Huge scare and pain in the
So,
ass too.
It sold and everybody's happy, and
What price did it end up selling
so
at?
we sold it for 1.9.
1.9. Okay.
So
So you still made some money.
I made money,
Okay.
right? And everyone asks me when I tell the story, they're like, "Would you do it again?" And I was like, I probably would because I'm crazy, but I now know what it actually would cost.
Right.
So I can ask the bank now for $1 million instead
Yeah.
of 500.
Yeah, that's a really painful part, man.
Yeah.
So you didn't have private investors. It was just a bank construction loan
Yep.
on that one and
Bank
everything.
and me, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I've never really worked with hard money before.
Okay.
It's always just been myself and bank. I got a handful of people that invest in me.
Got it.
And then I just give them a percent and stuff like that. It's never really tied to a project or anything. It's usually just a year increments, and then they just keep going, or I pay them back.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a nice,
Yeah.
clean, easy way to do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, so it was, and it was tough because during that time, I didn't really do much other things because my main focus was ride or die. This house has to get done.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely I need to sell this house.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
now I'm I sold that, and I'm I'm trying now that the market's changed since then, it's all right, some people only focus on high-end stuff, right? And there's a market for it, right? And like doing that, like I met people in that area that do high-end stuff, and they told me, they're like, we do 3 or 4 of these a year, and we're good. So like in a sense, I'm like, yeah, cool. Like do 4 projects. Like you're not running all over.
Yeah, it sounds
East
a lot
Jabib.
better than trying to do 20.
But you're also talking high dollars, a lot of down payments,
More risk.
more risk. If the market
Holding
tanks, like
costs.
are those people buying or not, right? Whereas like for stuff under 500, I feel like there's always going to be people buying there.
That's interesting. So, do you think that? I guess that's a perfect way to frame it, right? Like, is the over 500 to call it whatever $1 million price point more of a risky thing? Like, if rates do go up even higher, now they're probably going to be coming back down over the
Right.
next year anyway. But like,
Yeah.
so I don't do projects in that price point, but in my mind, I kind of thought of it like people that are looking to buy a 500, 700 million dollar house, 1.2, 1.5, they're not as affected and impacted by these things, and they're not going to care as much. It's like, okay, my payment is $1,500 a month more than I thought it was going to be, whatever. But
Yeah.
what's your thought?
So I come from a different world, right? So I'm an investor, flipper. I'm also a realtor, and I own a construction company. So it's like, for the sales aspect, I felt like when rates were really high, once you kind of got over $1 million, it kind of like the buyer pool did kind of
Fizzle out a little bit?
fizzle out
Okay.
a bit, yeah. It also depends. Like $1 million in Westchester is different than $1 million on the main line,
Of course.
right?
Of course.
So like $1 million flip in Westchester versus $1 million shack on the main line, you could probably still sell that all day long,
Right,
Because
right.
people want that.
That was going to be my question is like, well, did it seem like it fizzled out just because there was no supply? There were no houses over $1 million either? Because why would somebody sell, right?
Right, and that
It's
was
interesting.
just trying to get people to sell their house to me, like even like list it with as a realtor.
Sure.
And they were like, "Well,
What are we going to do?
where am I going to go?" Like I've been telling my parents to move for 3 years. Like once houses in their neighborhood started going up during COVID, and I was like, "Yo, guys, look, like it's more than what you thought you were going to get."
Yeah.
And my dad said to me, he's like, "Yeah, but where am I going to go?"
And that was before rates, did what they did.
when it
Hindsight's
was-
always
that's
a
when
bitch,
rates
isn't
were
it?
3%, less than 3%.
Only we could go back.
And, I wish I bought more stuff. And just because, dude, like when COVID started, everyone thought the market was going to tank.
Yep.
Right? So, like, everyone was scared.
Yep.
So, and then it did the opposite. Right? So, I wish going back now, I'm like, damn, like, I should have just bought like anything. Right? Because a year later, it would have skyrocketed.
Yup.
So,
Did you have a lot of projects ongoing at that time anyway that you were able to kind of reap the benefits of that?
few, but it was also like a few, like I sold off market during COVID. So like I was working on one like right when COVID shut down. I was working on one in Westchester, and like I still had my guys working on it. Like it was like I had to keep going.
Yeah,
Right.
yep.
And it was it wasn't like a full blown like addition renovation or anything. It was just a normal cosmetic on the inside. But it was when things were still like really unknown. It was like early stages of COVID, and I had somebody reach out and was like, just from a post I made of like progress pictures and stuff. And I had a realtor reach out to me and they're like, "Hey, where is this? Like, I have somebody looking, like they need to buy." And I was like, "Okay." So like I let them see it, and it was I didn't know where the market was going to go at the time. So I'm like, shit, like I don't know. Do I just take it because it's like they want it,
it's
and I can get
tough
paid
call,
now,
man.
or because like real estate was shut down.
Yep.
So I'm like,
Whole world was shut down.
I don't know,
It was
like
crazy.
how long am I going to sit on this? Like,
Yep.
if we're going to shut down for 2 weeks, 2 months, 6 months, like I don't know. So I sold it to him, and I probably could have gotten more if I waited 2 months.
How much more do you think you could have got where you don't like thinking about it and
God.
torturing yourself like that?
So I sold it. I think I sold it for $550, like in Westchester, right off Boot Road.
Okay.
It's probably worth, God, 650 now at least.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Hindsight,
you
man.
know.
Hindsight.
But you can't hold everything, right?
It's the truth.
That's why we flip houses, because it's how we live.
So let me ask you about that. So do you own rental properties?
I do.
Okay.
Yep. So
What's that look like?
So I got a handful. So I had, so going back a little bit, while I was still flipping with my parents, we did a handful of flips, started buying up rentals. So like my strategy was like flip houses, make money, go buy rentals.
Love it.
Right? Because I was still working, my dad was still working. And so we had probably about 10 units out in Coatesville that we bought as we were flipping houses.
Okay.
I then was going to be getting married, you know, starting a family and stuff. So I started to do things on my own, right? So, because that way I could keep 100% of everything.
Sure.
Right? Because, you know, so we decided to sell everything off that we had in Coatesville, all the rentals and stuff, which now I'm like looking back and I'm kicking myself because like it was crazy, right?
Values, man. Yeah.
So probably during COVID, I started buying more rentals.
Okay.
So I have 4 units out in Phoenixville, Oaks area, and then I have a twin in Downingtown Borough.
Okay.
So I'm actively trying to find more rentals. I still like, I love flipping. I love the process. I love seeing the start to finish thing. But it's very transactional.
It is.
Right?
It is, man.
And
It's one of the hardest things.
If you don't have the pipeline, then you don't have the deals.
That's exactly right.
So like I'm trying to do a mixture of both. Like I still want to do that, but I don't want that to be like I have to do this to live. So I'm trying to get the rentals up to a point where like I can live,
Yep.
and then like the flips are like my fun time, right? So that's where I'm actively trying to buy stuff.
I love it. And that's why I asked, because it's so damn hard when the only active income that you have is flipping, right?
Yeah.
It's really hard. Like when I was trying to scale my fix and flip company, whatever it was now, 5 years ago, and it was like Q1 and we had like 12 flips going on at the same time and everything. And the goal was to get to 50 that year. So since we had 12 going on at the same time, like this is feasible, you know? And it's like, you can look at a P&L and it's like, cool, when everything sells, net profit's going to be like 1.2, 1.4 million and everything. But guess what? There's no money in the fucking bank, man. And I don't know how we're going to get all these projects done. And same thing, it's like, we're over budget on a few projects at the same time. Well, guess what? It's coming out of my HIP National Bank, right? So it can be a really scary thing, because whatever it says on that piece of paper, it doesn't matter if you bleed out before you get there.
Right.
So, you know, and then the trickle effect isn't just a trickle effect anymore when you have multiple going on at the same time. You run out of money on one, guess what? Now all your other projects are messed up too.
Yeah.
It can be, and luckily we got through it and everything was fine. I just had a partnership issue falling out, and that kind of led me to focus on the wholesale side of the business anyway. And I'm grateful for all that. But it showed me to kind of, you have to be more well-rounded and have other income streams, basically, you know, and that's the wholesale side kind of balanced out even in that period where we had those cash flow issues on the fix and flip side, because with the wholesale stuff, it's like, okay, we're not making nearly as much money or anything, but I'm able to bring in 20 grand in 30 days rather than 100 grand in maybe 6-7 months. Right.
Yeah.
So balancing.
I mean, that's like going back to my big house, right? It was like everything I had was tied up in that one deal. And I was like, if I don't sell this thing, like, I don't know. Right. And so from that point on, I was like, I'm not doing that again. So, you know, trying to spread things out. I have multiple streams now. I got my commissions as a realtor. I got my fix and flip income. I got my contracting. So like during COVID, when I couldn't really buy fix and flips, they didn't really exist. I literally survived off of construction in other people's houses.
Okay.
And so like that became like a big piece of my income to this day also. I mean, like we do a ton of construction for people.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Okay.
Like basements, kitchens, bathrooms, additions, stucco remediations, like the whole nine. So it's it's kind of like a unique world that like when someone calls me, it's like I try to tell people I'm like I'm the property brothers, but I'm by myself.
I love it.
Right? So I can sell your house, I can fix it, I can buy it.
One-stop shop.
Whatever you want to do, like I'm here, right? And I think that's where not everybody knows that story of myself. Like people either know me as like the contractor, they know me as the flipper, or they know me as the realtor. And like I'm trying to mesh the three together so that people know to just call me for anything.
Well, I got you here, brother.
So,
now the world knows. The whole
you
world
go.
knows.
So it's like doing this type of stuff. Like going back, like not a social guy. Like I would never like actively seek out to go on like podcasts and stuff. Right. Like I'm cool sitting in my office and like,
Yep.
But, and that's where in 24, like I told myself, like I want to do more of these things that like I don't feel comfortable doing.
Well, look, and not for nothing. I mean, there's a huge piece of that in itself, right? Just doing the uncomfortable because it pushes for growth in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like, I really don't enjoy the social side either, which really surprises a lot of people because I've kind of always been relatively active on social and everything. Yeah. But dude, at the core, like I'm an introvert. Like I would rather just stay to myself, work by myself, not have employees, not have a team, and because that's just, I guess, the way I'm internally wired.
Right.
However, me knowing what I want to do and where I want to go, I know that I can't freaking do it on my own, right? So it's made me do things that are uncomfortable, right? It's made me like even go into a large. I didn't catch you at the Meridian thing, by the way. Were you there?
I was.
Yeah.
I was,
oh man, that was good.
Did
you have some? We talked about the expensive bourbon, right?
Yeah.
The $6,000 bourbon.
Yeah.
Man, that was good.
I know. They only had a few bottles, though. I don't know why.
Well, yeah, can't figure it out. They didn't want us. Well, crazy. But seriously, like doing things like that isn't my comfort zone at all. But you go and you do it, and even though it's uncomfortable, a lot of value and benefit comes out of it,
Yeah. And just like going to that, right? It's like meeting all the people at the bank that like they see your name come through the boardroom and the approval tables and stuff, and it's like I don't know who they are, right? But then like when I got introduced to them from my contact at the bank, they're like, "Oh, that's Mike." And they're like, "Oh, nice to put a face to the name."
Exactly,
I'm like,
man.
okay, thanks for approving all my loans.
Exactly. Thank you for giving me lots of money, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So, and then like, so last year, a year and a half ago, I bought a place in Downingtown that was my out of the comfort purchase. That it's a big project. I haven't even started it yet. It's a 10-unit apartment building.
Wow. Okay.
That is going to be, I'm building from the ground up.
Okay.
So
build to keep or build to sell?
The idea is to keep.
Okay.
I've had people already reach out to me asking like if I would sell it, and I was like, I don't know. Like my whole idea, like the whole plan was to buy it, build it, and keep it.
Yep.
Right? Like, why would I want to sell? I'm trying to build my rentals.
Sure.
But I don't know. I mean, like
everything's got a number, man.
That's what everyone says. Like, there's a price for everything.
That's the truth.
But that was my out of the comfort thing, man, because like it's commercial. Everything costs more. Everything takes longer. I bought it from these two guys, and everything was approved, ready to be submitted for permits.
Okay.
So I bought it.
So it had plans with it and everything when you purchased.
Bad on me. I didn't verify that they were recorded with the borough yet. So I went to go do that, and they were like, well, your plans are actually old because they did them 4 years ago.
Oh, boy.
So I had to update all my engineering, all my structural, all my MEPs, everything. So that was like $50,000. I had to pay a parking fee in lieu of, because there's not enough parking to go with the property. So I had to pay the borough a fee basically to like use their spots.
Street parking.
So that was $50,000.
Wow.
It's just time. You're like getting engineers and architects to like just update plans, like not change anything, just update.
Like I said,
it's like
here, this small little building, $20,000 in plans,
like 3-4 months.
Yep.
And then, we found out that there's a roof encroachment with the neighbor now. And so now like we're working with that. And So it's just like everything, man. It's just like, I'm like, God, was this a good idea? But I've learned a lot. It's my first like commercial deal. I've never built ground up commercial before. It's always been residential. So it's a
That's
unique
awesome.
process, but I'm excited to start. Like, I'm fingers crossed, hopefully starting in like next couple months.
Okay. I love it. And what is, I want to ask you a deep question, but before I do that, like what are you projecting to spend, I guess, from this point, because it probably already changed from when you purchased anyway, to build?
So total construction is probably going to be like 1.3.
Really?
1.3.
Dude, in perspective, that doesn't
Yeah.
sound like a whole
That could
lot
be-
when you just
that could
said
be
you
way
spent $1
off.
million on one project,
Right. Well, and I originally just looking at it like off the cuff, I was like, $1 million, I could build this. Because it was when
Well, we all do happy math.
Right, because it was when I was doing that other house, and I was like, well, if I dropped $1 million on a 6,000 square foot house, 7,000 square foot, about the same. But I didn't like.
That sounds like my happy
You know?
math, man. We're the same.
I'm like, I need sprinklers. I got a
And
roof.
it's 10 kitchens, not one kitchen.
Yeah, and I got a roof garden, a garden on my roof.
Is it really?
Because for stormwater. So I'm like,
Okay.
I was like, wait. I asked the guy. I was like,
I'll
wait a
spend
second.
a little bit more.
I was like, so you want me to put a garden up on my roof?
That sounds cool, but sounds
I
expensive.
was like, it doesn't make sense. Like, why would I want plants growing on my roof? So like I didn't have a guy for that, so I had to find somebody.
Yeah.
So I started making contacts with more commercial builders and people that build apartments and stuff, and like I've been sharing contacts with them now. So like I have a guy now in Philly that does roof gardens because
Wow.
in Philly it's really common. So I'm like, it's my first
He's
one.
the guy now.
I didn't
Yeah.
know they cost $30,000 either. So, but it's that type of stuff that, it's making me grow a bit. And, cause like doing the residential stuff after 80 houses, like it's very like, I don't want to say copy and paste, but like there's nothing like truly new that you're learning,
Sure,
right? It's
sure.
just different townships,
Just
different
yeah,
things.
different problems, but the same
But all the
variation,
same, right?
different flavor.
This,
yeah.
like, I didn't know what an MEP was.
Right.
I'm like, what's MEP? I had to Google it. Now I know. So it's like, so I like it. It's kind of like making me relearn the whole industry in like a different world. But I just wish that I could have started a year ago, not now.
Hindsight, man.
You
So
know?
I wanted to ask you, what do you think it is that allows you, like the way that you're wired, what is it that allows you to take that kind of risk? Because most people would look at that and exactly, it's so outside of my area of expertise. I don't really know a lot of I don't even know what I don't know on it, but
Yeah.
you have something within you that allows you're more risk adverse, right? Like, have you ever thought about that?
I am. So I take risks, but I hate gambling. Like I don't go to the casinos.
I'm the same way.
I can't do it. I'm like I can't drop $500 on a poker table, right? I'm like, I could do something else with $500.
Yep.
But
You're betting on you.
yeah, right. And
It's not a gamble.
It's not right because I'm like, I know no matter what, like it's gonna get done. It may not be at 1.3. It may end up at 1.5, right? But like it will get built. It may not cash flow as well as I thought it was going to.
That's right.
But at least it'll be mine, right?
I love that. Yep.
That's where like, I haven't had a real job in 10 years. Like I quit my job literally right when my wife and I were buying our first house. This is how like naive I was when I first got started. We were buying our first house. We weren't even married yet. We were buying the house, and I was using a realtor because I wasn't a realtor at the time. And I was flipping houses. I was doing well at it, and I was like, you know what? Screw this. Like I'm quitting my job. I'm doing this full time. I told my realtor, I was like, God, just quit my job. I'm doing this full time. She's like, wait, what? She's like, you're buying a house. You can't quit your job. I was like, what do you
Why
mean?
not?
She's like, they're gonna call your employer and verify your employment. And I was like, oh, that sucks. I already quit.
Whoops.
So luckily, I was very close with my manager at the time, and I went and told her. I literally just told her what.
I'm back.
I was like, I can't quit yet. And she's like, are you serious? I was like, yeah, no, I need to stay here for a couple more weeks. She's like, all right. So, I said, I was like, but I'm telling you right now, as soon as I close on the house, I'm quitting again.
I love it.
So, and that was 2014, I think.
Okay.
So literally 10 years, like that was my last full-time job.
That's wild, man.
Yeah.
I love it. I kind of did something very similar. And I guess, yeah, it was about 6 years ago. I was working for a manufacturing company. And I guess for probably 3 or 4 years prior to that, I was working at the manufacturing company and I was doing flips and building my rental portfolio on the side.
Yeah.
And for probably at least a year, maybe even 2 years, I was still making more money doing flipping and everything as a side gig than I was at my job. But I kind of liked what I did, and I liked the guy that I was working for, and we're still like really close today, you know? So in my mind, I was like, in the perfect world, I have all the hours in the world and I can do both, right? But after a while, it's like, okay, well, obviously this is trending upwards and I have the potential and capacity to do more. I have to go that route. Yeah. So my wife was pregnant with our second child, and I don't know, there was something in me. I just felt compelled. I was like, it's time. Like I have to leave. And it sucked telling like my boss at the time, who was my buddy, like, yeah, I'm leaving and I'm going to do this, you know? Yeah. But yeah, so she was pregnant. I told him that I was leaving, but I really gave like a 6-month notice type of deal, because with the position I was in as a buddy of mine, want to make sure that everything is, you know, kind of filled, all the gaps and everything. And I found a house in Westchester that I really liked, wanted to buy. And I had, I think at that time I had 6 or 7 flips going on. And just talk about the worst timing, you know? So go under contract on this new house. It's a little bit more that I should really spend or could afford at the time. She's like 6 months pregnant when we go under contract. I'm leaving my job and everything essentially 2 months after I'm supposed to buy my house. Oh my God. We buy it, we move in. Actually, a couple weeks before we closed on the house, my wife called me, and she was, with that pregnancy, she was getting sick really often and everything, and she still had a job at that point. Okay. And she called me one day. I'll never forget it, man. It's like she called me bawling her eyes out, and she had a manager that was kind of just like a douche. I'm glad that I never found the dude and beat him up, honestly, in hindsight. But he was just like kind of sexist, and he would always make remarks anyway. And she just called me bawling her eyes out. She's like, they were giving her a hard time about literally throwing up while she's pregnant. And dude, just that feeling that I had in that moment, like, I don't think I've ever felt anything like it to this day. I was just like, I really made a promise to myself in that moment. I'm like, you're quitting right now, leave. She's like, I can't do that. I got to at least give him 2 weeks notice. I'm like, no, you're leaving right now. Go home. I'll leave. I'm going to come home too, and we'll talk, and, you know, everything will be fine. And you're never going back. And I literally promised myself in that moment, I'm like, she's never going to fucking work again. Never going to work again. Now, in logical terms, this was so stupid in so many ways. You know, I'm leaving my job. I'm buying a house. I got all these flips going on. She's pregnant with our second kid. We're moving into a new house that I'm going to do a gut renovation on, by the way.
Of course.
But whatever, you know, so we did it and we moved in. So now she's 9 months pregnant and I have basically the whole house gutted. We're living in one room in the house, me, her, and my oldest daughter was 5 at that time. So 3 of us living in one room in the house while the whole house is gutted. I'm over budget on all my flips and everything. She's not working. And literally, like, I was down to like my last couple $1,000s and I had to get the flips done. So I couldn't even finish our house. So we had like no kitchen for a 3-month period, which, by the way, you know how much money you spend on freaking DoorDash and everything when you're eating out breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day? We were spending like $1,500 a week on food. So it's like, but I didn't have the $50,000 to finish our house. So I just had to bleed out the $1,500, every week until things got better. And yeah, man, it was just like the worst timing for everything. But all that being said, I got all the flips done, started selling some things off. freed up cash flow? Because it was never like a money, it's a cash flow thing, which a lot of people that aren't in flipping or related to any form of business don't understand.
Yeah.
It's like, they're like, well, wait a minute. You don't have any money, but you have like a huge net worth. Like that doesn't make any sense. It's like, well, the two aren't necessarily correlated, right?
Well, and that's tough, man, because like, it's nobody's truly understands that problem, right? Having all that stuff going on and like literally running out of money.
Yeah.
And you gotta like think and be like, shit, like what, like how do you get the money, right? Like you take a loan from somebody, pay them 10%, and like be like, yo, I'll pay it back in 6 months, or sell something off at a discount just to get some cash in. And that's why I tell people, it's like, yeah, like flipping is great, I love it, but you only get paid when you sell.
That's it, man.
All right.
And it's cash out many, many times until you do.
And it depends on like how many flips you're doing that year. Like there's years I've only done 3 or 4, right? So I've only gotten 3 or 4 paychecks that year.
Yeah, man.
And it's like, all right, like cool, like there's money in the bank, but like, you got to spread that out over 12 months. And at the same time, try to plan and be like, all right, I need to go buy more stuff though too, right? So like the money's here, but then when you go buy 2 or 3 more things, now your money's gone again.
Yep.
It's like, I was just talking to another investor yesterday, and he's like, yeah, I started a new bank account, and he's like, I had a couple $100,000 in there, and it just kept going down, 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 down. And the bank kept calling him like, hey, like, is everything all right? Are you all right? Like, he's like, this is just the way it is, man. Like,
that's it.
I go from like $500,000 to like literally $50,000, and then like it'll come back. Don't worry.
Yep.
But it's not everybody has that kind of backbone to handle stuff like that.
Yeah. No, I think you do have to be a certain level of crazy, not even just like risky.
Yeah.
Like we're a little crazy.
Yeah, and dude, there's some nights, man. I'm sitting there, I'm like, damn, like this. What did I do?
So that's the other question I wanted to ask you. What does your wife think about everything that you do, and let's say like the risk that you take in some of the deals that you've taken on in the past?
She's very supportive. So my wife works part-time because she enjoys doing what she does. And I think she trusts me to not screw up, which like that in itself is enough pressure. So like when I quit my job, I didn't do it as crazy as you because we didn't have kids at the time.
Okay.
Right. So like we were buying the house, which like it was the funniest thing. Like we were dating for a while and stuff, and then she was not living, but I was renting a house with a buddy of mine in Phoenixville, and it was like a stupid screaming deal, right? It was like a couple $100 a month. We had this big ass house in Phoenixville, and so she would stay, but it got to a point where it was like we should probably go get our own place. And I was like, well, let's just buy something. And she's like, we're not even married yet. You want to buy a house? And I was like, I was stupid enough. And I was like, well, yeah. I was like, I can always sell the house.
Did you say that to her?
Yes.
I love it.
So we bought a house, and then we got engaged. And I forget what I was going to say, but
I did it backwards like that too, except I had a kid first, then we bought a house. Then we got married. Then we bought the other house and everything else.
So going back, so like from that point, like I left my job, and like we've moved 5 times in 7 years, just because like we find cool houses and we're like, oh, let's move here, right?
Yeah.
Let's move here. So we're finally like at the point now where like the kids are in school, like we need to kind of stay put now for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, like dude, we bounced around 5 times.
How long have you been in your current house?
Just over a year, like a year and a half.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's about time for a new one.
That's what. So like my contractors, they make bets as to how long we stay in each house.
That's awesome.
And when we moved the last time, the one guy was like, I knew it. I knew I was right. I was like, wait, what? And he's like, oh yeah, we all took bets.
We were betting on you.
I'm like, are you serious?
That's hilarious.
But yeah, of like the 80 some flips I've done, I've only lost money on, I'd say 3. So like I've always been positive. It may have been like $1,000,
In profit, you mean?
but I
Yeah.
didn't lose anything. So only 3 houses I actually sold at a loss.
Okay. What was your worst loss?
$45,000.
Okay.
That was tough.
Why did that happen? What went wrong on that project?
It was a Westchester Borough house. I bought it from a wholesaler. It was a cool house, and we just kind of kept going, and like it was plaster and lath. So I was like, nobody wants plaster. Let's rip it out and put drywall. And then I was like, well, if we're gonna rip it out, then we can move the rooms around. And now
Sure.
we're the whole snowball thing,
Preaching to the choir.
might
yep.
as well again, right? And it just kind of snowballed, and this was a while ago too. This was, gosh, like 2017 maybe.
Okay.
And like it was right next to a school playground, and I was like, who doesn't like listening to kids play in the playground? Apparently, a lot of people, right? So,
I wouldn't expect that either, though.
right?
Huh.
So that was like the biggest thing. People had an issue with the playground next door, and I was like, oh, I had no idea.
Now I know.
Now I know. But yeah, it was just, so I thought I could just get it back because it was Westchester, and I didn't.
You just couldn't get the sale price that you
Couldn't
thought.
get it. So I had it listed, and, we had offers under, and I was like, damn, and I always, once, as a realtor now also, like I always tell my clients, like usually the first offer is always going to be the best offer, right?
That's
So,
interesting.
just from my past experience, that's been the case. It may not be like what you're going to accept, but usually it's the best offer. The other ones that come in are not as good. So I have that in my head all the time. Like once I get an offer, I'm like, shit, this is the first one. Like, is this the best one?
Yeah.
Right? It's not always the case.
Sure.
I would say more so in the last couple of years, not the case, just because of everything. But before COVID, I felt like
The data that you have experienced in the past
it
has
was
led to
your best.
Yeah.
The first offer was
Interesting.
usually your best one.
Okay.
So, I kind of took that, and but then I'm always like in the back of my head, I always say to my wife, I'm like, damn, did I make the right call? And she's like, you never know.
Well,
you know?
that's another big piece of it, right? And that again goes to the risk side of it and everything. And
But
questions like that
after-
are easy to beat yourself up.
But after that house, that was my first loss, and it was a big one. And dude, 45 grand, like that was more than I made out of college at my first job.
It's a lot of money, man.
And I was like, after that, like I said to her, I was like, I don't know, like, do I know what I'm doing? Like,
So it kind of fucked you up.
it did, and it took me a while to like get over it, right?
Yeah.
And
That makes sense, though.
but thank God it wasn't on the first one, because I probably wouldn't have kept going.
Yeah, totally.
Right. And so like I think like that's the biggest thing right now with like new people getting into it is that, everyone thinks it's easy. Everyone thinks it's a 30-minute show.
HGTV, brother.
And
Yep.
it's not, man. And there's so much back stuff that happens. Like, you open up plaster walls in a 1920 house, like you find knob and tube. You have to fix it. You know what it costs to rewire a house? Most people don't have that in their budget.
And by the
right?
way, a lot more now than it did 2 years ago.
Yeah.
A lot more now.
So that's just the stuff, man. It's like you don't know everything. And so now, like, that's why, like, I have such big budgets now, because I'm like, I know I'm going to open up walls because, like, that's just what I do. Like, I always knock walls down. And, you never know what you're going to find.
That's the truth. So to that, like, do you just kind of have a standard like percentage that you account for in contingency reserves, or do you kind of just build it
I
into
kind of
your
build
budget?
it in. So, like, I mean, with the bank and stuff, you give, like, a breakdown as to, like, hey, demo, kitchen, bathrooms, flooring, paint. So I kind of like, and then like I usually like if I have $150,000 budget, I'll usually let all of my line items go to like 130, and then I just have like miscellaneous 20.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
And that's where like I tell the bank like, hey, I need 10,000 of my miscellaneous.
Yeah.
And
Over
like,
the
okay.
years, I just started making that number bigger and bigger and bigger. Like,
Yeah.
I think in my last project, it was almost like 20% was like a contingency item. And it's like, well, the contingency item is where, we usually do end up needing to pull from, right? So,
yeah. So but yeah, dude, after that one, it was a kick to the balls, man, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And it was, I'm trying to think, we had my son at the time. So yeah, it was like it hit home then, right? Because I'm like, shit, like I'm the only one that like I'm the provider of the house.
Yeah.
Like I have a kid now.
I'm a new father. I lost money. Am I good at this? Can I do it?
Yeah. And nobody talks about that as part of the business.
Yeah,
Everyone
man.
always talks about, oh, I made $100,000, I made this, I did this. Like they don't talk about this because they don't want anybody to know about that.
Right.
But like,
and in reality, I think it should be the opposite, right? Like, because if you haven't experienced that yet, it doesn't matter how long you've been in business, right?
Yeah.
Like, it will happen inevitably. And really, I think not having small losses over time is a worse and scarier thing, right? Because I couldn't imagine like going 10 years and having everything be roses and rainbows and then getting hit. Like what just happened to me in my business over the last year of 2023, right? If I hadn't already had a lot of losses and failures in the past and everything that kind of toughened me up, so to speak, and made me aware of risk and downside to things, and just psychologically, like some of the crap that you have to deal with as a business owner, like, dude, I don't think I would have made it, right?
Yeah.
So I think it sucks, right? Nobody likes pain, right? Nobody enjoys it. And to your point, nobody likes talking about it either because it makes it seem like, well, are other people going to think that
you don't know what you're doing?
That I suck?
Yeah, right.
But I think it makes you better. It makes you stronger, especially if you are open and willing to talk about it, because it's like, man, this dude's so confident that he can even talk about his losses and everything because he does believe in himself and he knows that moving forward.
And when you do have a loss like that, like it makes you like you have to start thinking differently.
You have to.
Right? Like you can't just keep doing what you were doing before. So it makes you try different things, like look in different avenues, like, okay, well, do I need to start doing this? Like, did I overdo it? Like, do I need to do this kind of renovation?
Mm-hmm.
Can I do less? So it makes you start thinking of different things, which
it does.
Like you have to do in this business.
Yep. And for what it's worth, I think, I'm no economist, right, by any means, but I think that by and large is kind of the beauty behind market cycles in anything. Right? Yeah. Things have to go wrong for you to question what needs to be done differently, what needs to be done better. What do I have to work on as a person, as a business owner, as a father, as a whatever? Because if you're never challenged, if you're never tested, nothing ever changes. Coasting. And things always change, right? Yeah. It's one of the only constants. And I was talking to a guy about this the other week, that it's one of the challenges that I've faced a lot in the last year is when you are doing something a certain specific way for a really long time and it's working perfectly, and then something stops working in it, it's like it does make you go back and question all pieces of it and everything, when in reality there could be 100 pieces that correlated to that success in the first place, but really only one of them broke. But now you're questioning some things that didn't break, so it can be challenging. Yeah. And now maybe I go back and change something that wasn't broken in the first place, and that didn't fix it either, right? Yeah. So just because something did work in the past doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work in the future.
Right. Yeah.
Super interesting.
Just from the way that the economy is right now, right? Like things that worked in the past, like, I bought a lot of stuff from wholesalers 10, 12 years ago, right? And like that was my whole, like I didn't have people coming to me trying to sell stuff because I wasn't at that level.
Yep.
So I was relying on wholesalers. What I've come to now in like the last 2 years is like a lot of my wholesalers that I used to use 12 years ago are gone.
Yeah. Yeah, a
right?
lot of them got wiped out in the
and I'm
last
like,
year and a half.
So like after I finished up my big house, I'm like, all right, like I'm ready to go again. Like I got my money back. Like let's keep going.
And how do I get deals?
And now I'm like, where is
Yeah.
everyone?
Yeah.
So now like I feel like I'm starting over, like finding all these new younger wholesalers now, and I'm like, dang, like I'm literally starting over again. I just did this 12 years ago.
Yep.
So it's like recognizing that was eye-opening, and now it's like, well, damn, like you're literally starting again.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm doing now is like meeting all these new people again. I'm going back to like all these meetups. I'm going back to all the marketing things and all the social things and stuff. And so it's different now.
Yep. And it always will be. It always will be into the future and everything, you know, and who knows what the changes are going to be in the next 12 months or 24 months or 5 years. Who knows? Who cares? But I can guarantee you it's going to be way different than it is today.
Yep.
So we're constantly evolving, constantly adapting, which leads me to my next question. Like, what is your thought on like, have you ever done any mentoring, coaches, programs, any stuff like that? Or have you kind of just been self-taught, figure it out?
I have not. So I never really had like a mentor. I never hired a coach. You know, and so, and I've been thinking about this like the last 6 months, like really, I'm like, you know, if I did 10 years ago, where would I have been now? Right? Like I guess I'm more of the, I learned lessons the hard way.
Oh, me too, brother. Me too. I'm a big proponent of coaches and masterminds and everything, but I still learn the hard way.
Yeah. So, you know, and I think now it's, I feel like it's even worse now because like there's so many that it's like I want to do something like masterminds, coach, something, right? Like I need something like in the whole, right? Like not just like business, but like life and like all this stuff. And, you know, like I've been going for so long that like sometimes you just get in a rut.
Totally.
And you're like, I don't even know what to do anymore.
Yep.
Right. And, so that's where like I do want to do something. It's but then I also run down the rabbit hole of like, all right, now I'm like researching all these coaches and masterminds and stuff, and I'm like, you know, by the time I look at 10, I'm like, oh wait, well what did the first one do? Like all, and it's just a thing, and I'm like, oh screw it, I don't have time for this. I gotta go do over here.
Yeah,
and do
I got stuff to do.
So it's like I'm bad with time management.
Me too.
I'm really bad with it. Like my wife will. She tells me all the time, she's like, I don't know how you do what you do or where you've gotten to where you are with like, literally I run my business out of my phone. That's it. Like I don't really use a CRM. Like it's techie, right? Like it's not me.
I get you.
But it also limits what you do. And so I'm trying to like overcome that. But yeah.
I relate to that so much, man. I'm terrible with time management, and God, same thing. My wife is always on me about, you know, I'm very disorganized with a lot of things. But so it's funny, like I'm the same way in a lot of regards. But everything that I built with the wholesale company, I basically built the entire systems and processes and structure of the company to overcome all of my weaknesses, right? So it's like everything that I built was CRM related, and there's structure and there's a flow of how we do everything, how we handle a lead when it comes in, and everything soup to nuts. And I was just joking with it with some new acquisitions guys that we hired the other day. It's like, well, yes, I have this system, and still to this day, I'm not going to follow it. I'm not going to do it, man. Like, but here's the difference, right? Like you, I can operate in chaos.
Yeah.
I can do it. I'm good with it. Not only can I do it, that's actually how I thrive.
Yeah.
I'm good with no structure, but I also know that most people, most logical human beings need some form of structure, right? So I had to build that because, again, I knew what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. Can't do it on my own. Right. And I can never have a team that's going to be able to operate at the same level of chaos that I do. Right. So I had to, and it was painful, dude, because, you know, like, it's just against the way that I'm wired to
Yeah.
build structure,
Yeah.
right? But I did, and as a result of that, it helped me get my company to where it is today.
Yeah. No,
So-
I don't have like those like whole systems and processes and all this stuff. Like I don't have it, but like I don't have employees.
Right.
So like I have, a team of 80 people,
That's a lot.
but I don't have employees, right? Like I got my subs, my contractors, my architects, my engineers, like I got soup to nuts, like anything you need, I got.
Yep.
But I don't have like hey, if this happens, follow this down here and go here, and like this is what you do.
But that's the thing. That's the beauty. Since you don't have employees, it's like you already have that. You do have it.
Yeah.
It just happens to be in your
my
head.
Yeah.
It's in your head.
Yeah.
And
So I would love to get to the point where like I can go away to like an island for like a month and still have things being done. Right.
yep.
So like that's my goal. Like I would love that type of environment, right? So I need to do that. I need to get more into that.
Yep.
It's just like that to me is not sexy. Like I don't enjoy it, so I don't do it.
It's not sexy. It's
Yeah.
not. But at the end of the day, right? Like a lot of things in your business aren't sexy either.
Yeah.
You put up with them and you're good at them,
Yeah.
but a lot of it's not sexy, right? Like I think we agree there as well. Like seeing a product go from piece of crap to beautiful, that's sexy. That's fun, that's fulfilling, that's satisfying, everything
Yep.
about it, right?
Yep.
But a lot of this stuff isn't,
No.
right? Like, what do you think is the number one thing that drives you crazy about flipping houses?
Besides like finding the deals, that's one thing, like, because I've relied so heavily on other people in the past that I don't have that piece of it set up on my own, right?
Yep.
So now I'm like sitting here, I'm like, all right, well, do I start trying to do this stuff on my own now? But I'm like, I don't even know where to start.
Yep.
Like, yeah, I can pull lists from public records and all that stuff, but I'm like, what do you do? Like,
And
you
then
send
what?
you send postcards, you sending letters, you cold calling, like,
Yep.
I
And
don't
then
know.
you get on the phone with somebody. Then what?
Yeah.
Then what?
I mean,
right?
I hired a VA from the Philippines before. I gave him lists of people to call, and then like I listened in on some of the calls, and I'm like, "What are you doing? Like, this is not how we do this."
Yep.
And like, so there's good ways of doing things, and like, so I'm trying to figure out like, do I just find new wholesalers that I can go to and trust, and young enough where they're going to stick in this business for the next 10 years?
Yep.
Or do I try to do it on my own, but like I really don't want to.
Right.
It's not what I enjoy doing.
And look, honestly, that's how I got into it as well. Like I said, I was scaling the fix and flip company, and we were just buying from other wholesalers
Yeah.
and off the MLS. And the issue was there weren't enough deals to buy. Like we had the construction company in-house. We had all the money that we needed to be able to scale and do 50 houses a year and everything. There weren't enough deals.
Yeah.
So I was like, I kind of have to figure out this direct-to-seller marketing thing. And not for nothing, I was thankfully naive enough at the time that I really thought that it would be easy, right? Because I had done little mailings before, right? Like I sent out 1,000 pieces or something and got a deal. I talked to the seller, I negotiated the deal. So I'm like, I've kind of already done this before, right? So I'm just going to ramp it up, 10x it, and it'll be just like it was before. And God, that's so wrong. It's like I had to, it's not a real estate company anymore, right? It's not. People think that if you flip houses, if you own rental properties, then the act of wholesaling, whether you intend to wholesale or just buy them for yourself, they think that that's an extension of a real estate company, and it's not, man. It's a marketing and sales company. And I didn't have that insight years ago, right?
Yeah.
What we do really has very little to do with the real estate at all. So now when we bring in salespeople, like I focus maybe 3% of their onboarding on real estate. Like they don't get trained too much on comping. They're not like, they don't need to be an expert in construction and estimation, any of that stuff. Because really, it's just about relationships and sales, you know?
Right.
And
Get your foot in the door, like get us to the house. And
yeah,
then,
like It's funny with sales guys, when they come to me, especially when they're newer or something, and they're like, oh, just talk to this seller. They got a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. I'm like, whoa, stop. I don't care about the house. What's the situation? Right?
Yeah.
Because if that seller has this house, and who cares what the details are, who cares what the ARV is, if they don't fall into one of these buckets of people that we typically buy houses from, if they don't have some sort of issue, some sort of pain point, they're not going to sell to us anyway. So I definitely don't want you spending time researching, comping, figuring out estimated rehab, ARV. You're going to waste your time when they're not our prime candidate seller, right? Because one of the first things that we tell sellers on a call, literally in the first 3 or 4 sentences, is, have you considered listing with an agent? And if they say, yes, I don't want to do that because X, Y, or Z. Okay, well, I need to know a little bit more.
Right.
So I am still not sure if we are the right fit for you.
Yeah.
But if we talk a little bit more and figure out what's going on in your situation, at least we can point you in the right direction, right? So we are largely, like people think that, and by and large, I guess a lot of wholesalers do give the industry a bad rap and everything for lying and manipulating and stuff like this. But we do the exact opposite. And often we push people away. We're like, this is the way that you should, like 100%. We tell sellers all the time, you will get more money if you do this and you sell and you list it. And if you're okay with maybe having to do some repairs, a buyer comes through and they say, you know, your electric panel is outdated or whatever, and you can stomach spending a couple $1,000, you're going to get more money. You're going to do that, right? But if timing matters, if you don't have the money to spend, if any of these other check boxes, again, we might be the right fit for you.
Yeah. It's like I just sold a deal in October last year, and it was this lady contacted me on Facebook that I used. She taught me how to use QuickBooks like 10 years ago, and you know, she moved away, so I stopped using her, but she messaged me on Facebook and was like, hey, do you still buy houses? And I was like, yeah. She's like, my dad just passed away and I need to sell the house. I was like, okay, cool. Like, let's meet. And so I met with her. I looked at the house and stuff. And I said to her, I was like, listen, like, I'm also a realtor if you want to list the house. And she's like, no, like, I have a realtor already. She's like, I want you to come here and tell me what you would buy the house for. I was like, okay, fair enough. And, you know, there was definitely a difference in pricing between what she was going to list it for and what I offered to her. I said, but like, you know, what I do is like, I tell people like, you can take what you want from the house, walk out the door and shut the door.
That's it.
I was like, I'll take care of everything else. And she was like, okay. She's like, so like, you're going to clean it out? I was like, yeah, you leave everything there. Leave it the way it is. I don't care. She's like, okay. And like, that's how I bought the house, because to her, like, she was from out of state. She came here to handle the situation. And she's like, I don't have the time and I don't want to do it. Right. And it's nice when people come to you directly.
100%.
And I'm like, holy, like, I haven't spoken to her in like 8 years. Right. And I'm like, damn. Okay. So I'm like, you know, it'd be nice if I could get more of those things going, you know? But yeah, it's so like last year, like I bought probably 3 houses that way of just people coming to me. And so I'm like, all right, like, what am I doing that like people are actually seeing, right? Like, because they're messaging me and like coming to me for stuff. So it's kind of like you gotta have to like both, like, multiple ways of getting things in, right? Like, you know, I've never done the outbound marketing, right? But, you know, I just sent out a couple of things to see what happens, right? I'm like, let's see what happens. But I know it's going to happen. I'm not going to stay consistent with it, and it's not going to come to anything. That's right. So it's like, I'd rather pay somebody a fee and be like, hey, bring me deals and I will pay you, right? Because that, to me, like, it took me 3 days to do a 300 mailer. 3 days.
It's no joke, man.
There's
a lot that goes into it,
For 3 days. And I was like, this is insane. I mean, the only...
Did you get any phone calls out of it?
They just went out yesterday, so I don't know yet.
Okay.
But, you know, the only good part about doing it was that my daughter put all the stamps on the envelopes and
I
stuff.
love it. I love it.
You know, so I'm like, just make sure you put it in the right corner, though.
Yep.
But you know, it's but yeah, I'm just trying to find different avenues of things and stuff, and you know, I'm doing my 24 is like mainly focusing on more like multifamilies. So
Okay.
like I definitely like between that my current apartment project going on, I got another commercial that I'm negotiating that could be potential more apartments. So it's a lot of like development that I'm doing, which,
Okay.
you know, a lot of people don't want to do the development aspect on multifamilies because it's time consuming. It takes a lot of time and money. They'd rather buy things already done.
Yep.
So I'm kind of doing that the other approach because I'm like, you know, maybe by doing it that way, there's less competition, right?
For sure. There's a lot to be said about
Not
that.
everybody wants to do that.
Yep.
And just from my 1.5 year experience of going through all the red tape of my other deal, I'm like, maybe it is worth just buying stuff already done. You know? I'm in it 1.5 years. I haven't made $1 yet.
But yeah, you don't know until you go through it and do it, you know?
Yeah. And it's going to be another year before I get my first $1.
Right.
So
Right.
it's 2.5 years that I'm carrying this thing, paying money, all this stuff that, you know, I'm not making anything on it yet.
That's a big deal, man. That's a
So,
big deal.
You know, you gotta have that, but then you also gotta do the flips and stuff to get.
You have to have
fast
active
money.
income, you know, especially when you have a family and you have kids, like
Yep.
got to put food on the table,
Yeah.
you know,
So
got to do it.
between all that, the construction and sales and stuff, I mean, it's busy. I'm blessed that like I have those multiple streams.
Yeah.
But it's also like it can get a little like mind blown as to like, you know, where do I focus my time? All right, and that's my biggest
How do
thing.
you balance that?
So I wake up in the morning and I'm like, you know, who calls first? You know, it's like there's some days I have a ton of construction stuff going on, and it's homeowners, right? So I'm like, you have to hold hands. You have meetings. You got to go. You got to get materials. You got to bring them supplies to look at, options, stuff like that. You know, and then I got like my flips going on. I'm like, all right, you know what we did on the last one? Just do that again.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So it's tough to like devote a certain amount of time to
Yeah. Right.
each
You
thing.
don't have a schedule.
Right.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah. No,
And
it's
good or bad, I don't know. I mean, it's worked so far, but
well, and not for nothing. If that is how you are wired, and that is you playing to your strengths, again, like
Right.
me saying that I operate in chaos, I can do that too. I kind of enjoy that, you know, and not. I've had so many people that, especially on the wholesale side, but really for me it's the same thing. Like, but I've had people over the years that are like, well, could I just follow you around for a day and just like see what you do? I'm like, it would not serve you at all. I'm not against it, by the way, but
Yeah.
it wouldn't serve you because I don't really have a structure. It's like, other than we have a company huddle every day and a couple times throughout the week we have scheduled meetings, but for the most part, the rest of my day, the rest of my schedule is whatever comes up, whatever fire happens to be put in front of me, I put that out.
Yeah.
That's what I do. That's what I do. I just solve whatever problem comes up as a result of the things that I already put in place.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I tell people, I'm like, I get more work done driving in my truck than I do sitting at home.
Yep.
Like I can't sit at home. Like if I'm sitting at home, there's a problem, right? Because I get distracted.
Totally.
And so like I'm better when I got like 4 or 5 different things going on. I'm like, all right, I got to drive here, do this. I got to go over here and do this. I got to go pick this up, drop this off here. And it's like, you know, that. But then like as I'm doing all that stuff, like my brain is going and I'm like, all right, you do this, that. All right. Don't forget, call this guy, right? And I'm like, oh, might as well do it now. Like, so I get more stuff done in like the midst of chaos than I do at home in like quiet office time.
Do you have ADHD?
Undiagnosed.
Undiagnosed, but you feel that you do.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me too. And you know, a lot of people, especially as children, right? Like I guess I was diagnosed as a kid, and I was never medicated as a kid or whatever. But there's a lot of drawbacks to it for sure. Attention span and many other things, time management. These all kind of are symptoms, but there's so many superpowers to it too, man. And like the ability to be able to handle and juggle 5 different complex problems at the same time. Right. Like a person with a normal brain, like they can't do that, right? And with us, it's not only we can do that, but we thrive in doing it. You know, so
the quiet time. It's I'm sitting on my computer. I'm like going through my QuickBooks and like my credit card and stuff. I'm like, let's go get a snack. Right?
Yeah.
Go to the kitchen, get a snack. Like, I forgot the water. Right. And I spend more time getting up and down than actually doing anything.
Preaching to the choir, man. Preaching to the choir.
But what are you gonna do?
I love it. So, like, if 2024, if you could flip any number of houses, what would it be?
So I sold one last week. I would love to do 10 flips this year. Small, medium. If I can do 10 of those. So I'm trying to get more, like, I'm expanding my market a bit, right? I'm not just focusing on, like, Westchester and Chester County anymore. So I'm preaching out a bit more just because I'm hoping that there's more opportunities there. Lower price houses, instead of buying, one at 600, maybe I can buy 2 at 3, and try that. So I would love to do 10 flips and then also construction of my 10 units.
Love it. Love it.
Yep.
How does your construction company tie into goals for the year? Like, do you have a revenue target or?
So we're on a couple big jobs now for homeowners. I would say revenue-wise, like $1 million.
Okay.
For the construction aspect.
Is that like on par with what you did in 23?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, more or less. And it's all like, it's my same guys. How I pay them is just differently.
Sure.
Right. So and like when I have a lot of flips going on, so like I don't do any advertising for construction. It's all like literally people call me from Mom Advice on Facebook. That's literally how I get 95% of my construction work.
I love it. That's huge, man.
So, and it's just like referrals of past people. Like I did a basement for somebody in Westchester, and now they gave my number out, and I went out and I gave quotes to 4 or 5 other people for decks and patios and more basements and kitchens and stuff.
Nothing better.
It's the word of mouth, right? Like you're always going to go with somebody, especially like a close friend of yours that used a certain person and said,
Absolutely.
hey, it was a great experience, all this stuff. I feel like a lot of people have a bad stigma on contractors too.
For sure. Sure.
If I go and do a quote for somebody and they're like, you wouldn't be surprised. She's like, I had 5 people out. I have no quotes. I was like, interesting. Mm-hmm. She's like, I don't know why people would waste their time coming out if they don't want to give me a price. I was like, that's true. So it's like, I don't know why, but yeah, it's just, if you do what you say you're going to do,
man,
then it's just going to fall into place, man. Like, so that's what I try to just do, man. If I tell people I'm going to do something, then I'm just going to do it.
Totally agree. Couldn't agree more, man. It's like, I don't know, just as far as values and beliefs go, it kind of pains me sometimes when you meet somebody that doesn't live by that rule, that moral code, if you will. Because anytime that I tell somebody something, it's, my word is my bond, man. Like, and I don't care if it costs me money either. If I mess something up and I was wrong, like I'm going to eat it. It's just,
especially in this business,
100%.
Like if you don't do what you say you're going to do in real estate, like for as many people do real estate in Chester County, like they all kind of know each other.
Of course.
It's a very small circle. And like you screw one person, I guarantee you that person's going to tell every other person in real estate that they know not to talk to you.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So I same thing. I'm like, I'd rather lose money than burn a bridge.
Yep. Yep. And by the way, like part of the way that I am, I've had plenty of people, as I'm sure you have, that have burnt you on things in the past, right?
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of ways, I kind of almost, I'm going to regret saying this on a podcast, but in a lot of ways, I make it easy to screw me on certain deals or situations or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I think my underlying thought behind why I do that is because if somebody's going to screw me on something that they can take advantage of me over $1,000, $2,000, I would rather them do that now and find out the true colors in their character rather than later on in a relationship when we're on deal number 10 or something and they still have that same character, but they haven't shown that character yet and my risk is greater. So I would rather lose money now, find out the character of the person, and that's fine. Just peace out. Like, you're just not a part of my life anymore. And I have no bad blood either. No bad blood. I don't hold grudges at all. Yeah. But you're out of my life. You're out of my business. That's all.
Right. Yeah.
Still want you to eat, just not at my table.
Right,
you know,
right.
That's
go somewhere else.
That's it. That's it. Not mine anymore.
Good
so
stuff,
if somebody wants to send you a deal, where can they find you? You're on Facebook, Instagram,
Instagram. I don't know what my things are because my wife does it.
All right, fair. But you're on Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram. Facebook is the best part.
Okay.
And then I have construction website and everything.
What's that website?
It's mabcontracting.com.
Okay.
You can put a request in there. It goes to me and my wife so that I make sure
actually
that
gets
I
done?
get replied back to.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and then just email and phone.
What's your email address? Drop that too. We'll put it in the show notes.
Mike@MikeBallatoGroup.com, and cell phone is 610-858-0994.
I love it. I love when somebody drops their cell phone.
Yeah, man.
That means you're ready to go and do business, brother.
right.
I love it. I love it. Well, here's
Appreciate
to
it.
2024. Excited for you and all the things you
man.
got coming, brother. I'm
Appreciate
glad you
it.
came.
Thank
Appreciate you.
Thanks, buddy.